The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. Every species that crawled out of their homeworld eventually found their way to the Grand Nexus Station. Every species eventually learned to bow. The Council controlled everything: trade routes, technology, military power. When a new civilization appeared, the Council gave them a choice: join us and live under our rules, or face destruction. No one ever chose destruction. So when the humans emerged from a small planet in a quiet corner of the galaxy, the Council was not worried. They had done this 1,000 times before. They sent the summons and waited. Ambassador Hannah Bin received the message on a cold morning aboard the diplomatic vessel. She read it twice. The Council demanded that humanity send representatives to the Grand Nexus Station within 100 days. They called it integration negotiations. Hannah Bin knew what that really meant: surrender. She contacted Admiral Taewoo immediately. The Admiral was a man of few words. He had gray hair and tired eyes, but his mind was sharp as a blade. He had spent 30 years building Earth's fleet in secret. He had prepared for this moment his entire life. "They want us to come and kneel," Hannah Bin said. "Then we go," the Admiral replied. "But we do not kneel." The human delegation traveled for 3 weeks through hyperspace. Their ship was small compared to the massive vessels of the older species, but it carried something the Council did not expect. It carried people who were not afraid. Hannah Bin spent the journey studying. She read every report about the Council. She learned about the Velthari, the ancient insect creatures who led the Council. She learned about the Keth Dominion, the aggressive reptiles who commanded the largest military. She learned about the Soreth Collective, the telepathic beings who controlled galactic trade. And she learned about the Hollow Worlds, where machine consciousnesses calculated the future. Captain Jae-sok joined her in the study room one evening. He was young, barely 30 years old, but he had already proven himself as one of the finest tactical minds in the fleet. "Are you nervous?" he asked. Hannah Bin looked up from her documents. "No. I am angry. Angry. They have already decided what we are. They think we are small. They think we are weak. They think we will do anything to survive." She closed her file. "They do not know us at all." The Grand Nexus Station was larger than any structure the humans had ever seen. It floated in the center of a dying star system, a massive ring of metal and light that could hold billions of beings. Ships from 100 different species docked at its ports. Flags of 1,000 civilizations hung from its walls. The human ship looked like a small fish swimming into the mouth of a whale. When Hannah Bin stepped onto the station, she felt the eyes of the galaxy upon her. Alien creatures of every shape watched her pass. Some were curious. Some were amused. Many looked at her with pity. She ignored them all. The Hall of 10,000 Voices was the heart of the Council. It was a circular chamber so vast that clouds formed near its ceiling. Seats rose in endless tiers, filled with delegates from every corner of the known universe. At the center stood a single platform where speakers addressed the assembly. High Speaker Torvun waited for her there. Torvun was old. Even by Velthari standards, he was ancient. His body was covered in a hard shell that had turned gray with age. His eyes, all 6 of them, glowed with a soft blue light. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched species beg for mercy. He expected nothing different from the humans. "Welcome, representative of Earth," Torvun said. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "You stand before the Galactic Council, the supreme authority of all civilized space. We have summoned you here to discuss the integration of your species into our family of worlds." Hannah Bin stood alone on the visitors' platform. Behind her, Captain Jae-sok and 2 guards waited in silence. She looked up at the endless rows of alien faces. She felt small, but she did not feel weak. "We are honored to be here," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. Torvun nodded slowly. "Then let us begin. The Council has reviewed your species. You are young. You are isolated. You have limited technology and limited resources. However, we are generous. We offer you protection. We offer you trade. We offer you a place among the stars." He paused, letting the weight of his words settle. "In exchange, you will surrender control of 60% of your colonial territories. You will provide labor forces for Council projects. You will accept limitations on your military and technological development. You will pay tribute to the council treasury each cycle. A murmur passed through the assembly. These were standard terms. Every new species received similar offers. Most accepted immediately. Some negotiated for better conditions. None refused. Hana Bin listened without expression. She did not interrupt. She did not ask questions. When Torvund finished speaking, she remained silent for a long moment. The chamber grew quiet. 10,000 delegates watched the small human woman standing alone on the platform. Finally, Hana Bin spoke. High Speaker Torvund, I have heard your terms. I thank you for presenting them so clearly. She took a breath. We respectfully decline. The silence that followed was like nothing the council had ever experienced. For a heartbeat, no one moved. No one spoke. The words hung in the air like a blade waiting to fall. Then chaos erupted. Delegates shouted in 100 different languages. Some demanded clarification. Some demanded punishment. Delegate Morath of the Keth Dominion rose from his seat. His reptilian face twisted with rage. You dare refuse the council, he roared. You dare reject our mercy? Hana Bin did not flinch. She looked directly at Morath, then at Torvund, then at the assembled masses of the galaxy. Humanity did not travel across the stars to become servants, she said. We did not build our civilization to give it away. We did not survive our own history to kneel before strangers. She straightened her shoulders. We came here to meet you as equals. If that is not possible, then we have nothing more to discuss. High Speaker Torvund stared at her with all 6 eyes. In 12,000 years, no species had ever spoken to the council like this. He did not know whether to be impressed or horrified, perhaps both. The human delegation turned and walked toward the exit. Behind them, the hall of 10,000 voices exploded into chaos. But Hana Bin did not look back. She had said what needed to be said. Now, humanity would face the consequences. The emergency session began within hours. High Speaker Torvund had not called such a meeting in over 200 years. The last time was when the Endless Choir refused integration. That species no longer existed. Delegate Morath stood at the center platform, his massive body trembling with anger. The Keth were warriors. They had conquered dozens of worlds before joining the council. They did not understand the concept of mercy. They understood even less the concept of defiance from a weak species. These humans are insects, Morath growled. They have existed for barely a moment in cosmic time. Their technology is primitive. Their fleet is small. And yet they dare to insult us. He slammed his clawed fist against the podium. The sound echoed through the chamber like a gunshot. I demand military action. Send the armada, crush their worlds, make an example of them so that no species ever refuses the council again. Many delegates nodded in agreement. The Keth were not alone in their anger. The council had maintained order for 12,000 years through fear. If one species could refuse without punishment, others might try the same. But emissary Liwen of the Sorath Collective raised a delicate hand. The Sorath were different from most species. They had no solid bodies. They existed as shifting clouds of light and energy. They communicated through telepathy and cared only for trade and profit. Before we act rashly, Liwen said, her voice floating through the minds of all present, perhaps we should consider the cost. War is expensive. The humans control 17 hyperspace routes that connect to valuable mining systems. If we destroy them, we lose access to those resources, Morath snorted. Resources can be replaced. Honor cannot. Honor does not fill treasury vaults. Liwen replied coldly. The argument continued for hours. Torvund watched in silence. He had led the council for 3,000 years. He had seen many debates like this one. But something about this situation felt different. Something felt wrong. The humans had refused without hesitation. They had shown no fear. That was unusual. New species always showed fear. Finally, Torvund raised his arm for silence. We will send an ultimatum, he announced. The humans will have 10 rotations to reconsider their position. If they continue to refuse, the armada will be deployed. The delegates murmured their approval. This was a reasonable compromise. It gave the humans a chance to surrender while maintaining the council's dignity. But deep in his ancient heart, Torvund wondered if the humans would take that chance. The ultimatum reached the human delegation aboard their ship. Hannah Bin read it aloud to her team. "They give us 10 days to accept their terms," she said. "Or they will destroy us." Captain Sok leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. "They think we are bluffing. Are we?" asked one of the younger officers. Fear flickered in his eyes. Hannah Bin looked at him. "What is your name?" "Officer. Park Dae-ho, Ambassador. Dae-ho, do you know why we are here? Do you know why Admiral Tae-woo spent 30 years building our fleet in secret? Do you know why our scientists worked in hidden laboratories developing technologies that no one was supposed to see?" Dae-ho shook his head. "Because we knew this day would come. We knew that eventually we would meet powers greater than ourselves, and we knew that those powers would try to take everything from us." She placed her hand on his shoulder. "We prepared for this moment. We are not bluffing." On the 7th day, High Speaker Torvund received a message. The human delegation requested a second audience before the council. He agreed, curious to see if they had finally come to beg. Hannah Bin walked into the Hall of 10,000 Voices for the second time. But this time, she was not alone. Captain Sok walked beside her, carrying a small device in his hand. Delegate Morath laughed when he saw them. "Have you come to surrender, humans? Have you finally understood your place in the universe?" Hannah Bin smiled. It was not a warm smile. "No, Delegate Morath. We have come to show you something." She nodded to Sok. The captain pressed a button on his device. Holographic displays exploded to life across the chamber. Images filled the air above every delegate's seat. Ships. Human ships. Not the small vessels that had carried the delegation. These were warships, thousands of them. They hung in perfect formation in the darkness of space. Their hulls were covered in weapons that the Council's sensors could not identify. Their engines burned with energy signatures that no known technology could produce. Morath's laughter died in his throat. What is this?" he demanded. "This is the United Earth Fleet," Hannah Bin said calmly. 2,700 warships, 42 carrier groups, 18 mobile battle stations, all currently positioned at the edge of Council space. She let the images rotate slowly, allowing every delegate to see the details. "We did not come here to threaten you. We came here to negotiate in good faith. But we also did not come unprepared." At that moment, a new voice filled the chamber. It was transmitted from orbit, from a ship that had been hiding in the shadow of a nearby moon. "This is Admiral Tae-woo of the United Earth Fleet." The Admiral's face appeared on the main display. He looked calm, almost tired, but his eyes burned with quiet determination. "High Speaker Torvund, honored delegates, humanity desires peace. We seek friendship with all species who treat us with respect, but we will not be intimidated. We will not be threatened, and we will not surrender what is rightfully ours." He paused. "If you wish to test our resolve, you are welcome to try. But I promise you, the cost will be higher than you can imagine." Emissary Li Wen suddenly trembled. Her form flickered with distress. Several delegates noticed and turned to look at her. "What is wrong?" Torvund demanded. Li Wen's voice came as a whisper in everyone's minds. "I tried to read the ambassador's thoughts. I wanted to know if they were bluffing. And they are not bluffing. They are completely prepared to fight. They are completely prepared to die. And they have weapons that—" She paused, her form flickering again. "They have weapons that frighten me." Silence fell over the chamber. Torvund looked at the holographic fleet. He looked at Hannah Bin standing calmly on the platform. He looked at the face of Admiral Tae-woo, waiting patiently for a response. For the first time in 3,000 years, the High Speaker did not know what to say. "We will take a recess," he finally announced. "The Council will reconvene in 6 hours." As the delegates filed out of the chamber, Morath grabbed Torvund's arm. "We cannot show weakness," the Keth hissed. "If we back down now, every species in the galaxy will see it. The Council's authority will crumble." Torvund pulled his arm free. "If we attack and fail," he said quietly, "the Council's authority will crumble anyway." He walked away, leaving Morath standing alone in the emptying hall. The game had changed. The humans were not prey. They were something else entirely. Behind the closed doors of the council's private chamber, chaos reigned. Delegate Morath paced back and forth like a caged animal. His claws scraped against the metal floor with each step. His yellow eyes burned with fury. "This changes nothing," he snarled. 2,000 ships. 3,000 ships. It does not matter. The Keith Dominion alone commands 10,000 warships. The combined armada has over 50,000 vessels. We can crush these humans like insects. High Speaker Torvund sat at the head of the long table. His ancient body remained still, but his 6 eyes moved constantly, watching each delegate. "Numbers are not everything, Morath," he said quietly. "You saw their weapons. Our sensors could not identify them. We do not know what they can do. Then we find out." Morath slammed the table. "We send a strike force. We test their strength. If they are weak, we destroy them. If they are strong, we retreat and plan a larger attack." Emissary Lewin drifted near the window, her form still flickering with unease. "You do not understand. When I touched the ambassador's mind, I felt something I have never felt before. Complete certainty. She was not afraid of death. She was not afraid of losing. It was as if she had already accepted the end of her species as an acceptable outcome." "That is madness," Morath said. "Perhaps. But madness is unpredictable. Madness is dangerous." In the corner of the room, Arbiter Kos remained silent. Kos was not truly alive. He was a machine consciousness from the hollow worlds, a collective of artificial intelligences that had joined the Council centuries ago. His metal body showed no emotion, but his processors were working at full capacity. "I have completed my analysis," Kos announced suddenly. His voice was flat and mechanical. Every delegate turned to look at him. "I ran 17,000 combat simulations using all available data. Fleet compositions, weapon estimates, tactical probabilities, and strategic outcomes." Torvund leaned forward. "And, in every simulation where the Council initiates conflict with humanity, the result is the same. The Council wins the war, but at a cost of 60 to 70% of our combined military forces. Additionally, between 12 and 15 major trading routes would be destroyed. Economic damage would require 300 years to fully repair." Morath growled. "Those are acceptable losses. Victory is victory." "I have not finished," Kos said. "In 34% of simulations, the humans deployed an unknown weapon during the final stages of the conflict. When this weapon was activated, both sides lost. There were no survivors." Silence. "Both sides?" Torvund asked. "Both sides. Complete mutual destruction." Morath opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. At that moment, a message arrived from the human ship. Dr. Una Sol, the chief scientist of Earth's Military Research Division, had transmitted a data packet directly to the Council's Science Division. Torvund ordered it displayed. The packet contained incomplete blueprints for a device. The title read, "Project Silence Engine. Hyperspace Lane. Collapse System." The Council's scientists analyzed the data for 1 hour. When they delivered their report, their voices trembled. "High Speaker, this weapon is real. The principles are sound. If activated, it would collapse all hyperspace lanes within a 50 light-year radius. Travel through affected areas would become impossible. Permanently." "Permanently?" Torvund repeated. "Yes. The damage to subspace would be irreversible. Any ship attempting to enter hyperspace in that region would be destroyed instantly." Lewin's form flickered violently. 50 light-years. That would include the Grand Nexus Station. That would include the homeworlds of 7 major Council species. That would include all primary trading routes. The scientist nodded. "If the humans deploy this weapon, galactic civilization as we know it would end. We would be isolated, trapped in small pockets of space with no way to reach each other." Torvund felt something he had not felt in 3,000 years. Fear. He understood now. The humans had not come to negotiate. They had not come to fight. They had come to make a statement. A statement that every delegate in the Council needed to hear. "You can destroy us. But if you do, we will take the galaxy down with us." Morath was the first to break the silence. They are bluffing. They would not destroy themselves, would they not? Torvund asked. Li Wen touched the ambassador's mind. She saw no bluff. She saw certainty. Then they are insane, perhaps. Or perhaps they simply value something more than survival. Torvund stood slowly, his ancient joints creaking. Tell me, Morath, in all your conquests, have you ever faced an enemy who was willing to lose everything rather than submit? Morath did not answer. I have seen such enemies. Once, long ago, before I joined the council. They were a small species on a dying world. We offered them mercy. They refused. We attacked. They fought until the last soldier, the last child, the last breath. When it was over, we had won. But we had lost so much that victory felt like defeat. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. These humans remind me of that species. They carry something inside them. Something that makes death preferable to submission. Something that makes extinction acceptable if the alternative is slavery. What do we do? Li Wen asked. Torvund turned back to face the delegates. We have two choices. We can attack and test their resolve. If they are bluffing, we win and destroy a troublesome species. If they are not bluffing, we destroy ourselves along with them. He paused. Or we can do something the Council has never done in 12,000 years. We can negotiate. Truly negotiate. As equals. Morath laughed bitterly. Equals? With primitives who crawled out of their mudball barely 1,000 years ago? Those primitives have something we do not have, Morath. They have nothing to lose. And an enemy with nothing to lose is the most dangerous enemy of all. Arbiter Koss spoke again. I have calculated the probability of successful negotiation versus military victory. Negotiation has a success rate of 83%. Military victory has a success rate of 66%, with a 34% chance of mutual destruction. The numbers hung in the air like a death sentence. Morath looked around the room. He saw fear in the eyes of delegates who had never known fear. He saw doubt in the minds of beings who had ruled the galaxy for millennia. This is madness, he whispered. Everything we built, everything we controlled, threatened by a species that should be begging at our feet. Torvund nodded slowly. Yes, it is madness. But it is also reality, and we must deal with reality, Morath. That is what leaders do. He walked toward the door. I will speak with the human ambassador privately. Perhaps there is still a path forward that does not end in fire. Behind him, the most powerful beings in the galaxy sat in stunned silence. For the first time in 12,000 years, the Galactic Council was not in control, and that terrified them more than any weapon ever could. The private meeting chamber was small compared to the hall of 10,000 voices. It had a single window that looked out onto a purple nebula that stretched across half the sky. Two chairs faced each other across a simple table. High Speaker Torvund arrived first. He dismissed his guards and sat alone, waiting. For 3,000 years, he had commanded the most powerful organization in the galaxy. He had made decisions that affected trillions of lives. But today, he felt like a student about to face a difficult exam. Ambassador Hana Bin arrived exactly on time. She wore the same simple uniform she had worn during the council session. Her black hair was pulled back tightly. Her face showed no expression. She sat across from Torvund without waiting for an invitation. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me, Torvund said. Thank you for asking. They stared at each other for a long moment. Two representatives of civilizations separated by thousands of years of development. Two beings who should have nothing in common, and yet, here they were, trying to understand each other. Torvund spoke first. I have a question, one that has troubled me since your first appearance in the hall. Ask, why? The word came out almost as a whisper. Why do you refuse to bargain? Every species that came before you accepted our terms. Some negotiated for better conditions. Some complained. Some resented us for generations. But in the end, they all accepted. They survived. They prospered under our guidance. Some became great powers within the council itself. He leaned forward. What makes humanity different? Hana Bin did not answer immediately. She looked out the window at the swirling colors of the nebula. When she spoke, her voice was quiet but firm. Because we remember. Torvund tilted his head. Remember what? Everything. She turned back to face him. High Speaker, you have ruled the galaxy for 12,000 years. In that time, you have seen species rise and fall. You have watched civilizations bloom and wither. But you have never been conquered. You have never been enslaved. You have never known what it feels like to have everything taken from you. No. The Velthari have always been strong. We were not. Hana Bin's eyes grew distant. Humans have a long memory, High Speaker. We remember every wound that was ever inflicted upon us. We remember the empires that conquered our ancestors. We remember the chains that bound our grandparents. We remember the camps where millions were murdered for being different. Torvund listened in silence. On our world, there were countless times when the powerful told the weak to surrender. Submit, they said, and you will survive. Bow, they said, and we will let you live. And many did bow, many did submit, but there were always those who refused. Those who chose death over chains. She stood and walked to the window. My grandmother was born in a country that no longer exists. It was conquered by a larger nation when she was a child. The conquerors told her people to forget their language, forget their culture, forget their identity. Many obeyed, but my grandmother never forgot. She taught my mother, who taught me. What did she teach you? Hana Bin turned to face him. That some things are more important than survival. That dignity cannot be given away, only taken, and that those who surrender their souls to avoid death have already died in every way that matters. Torvund was silent for a long moment. In his thousands of years, he had heard many speeches. He had listened to countless beings plead their cases, argue their positions, beg for mercy, but he had never heard anything quite like this. You would truly destroy yourselves rather than submit? He asked finally, without hesitation, even if it meant the end of your species? The end of your history? The end of everything you have built? Yes. Why? Hana Bin walked back to her chair and sat down. She looked Torvund directly in his 6 eyes, because submission would not be survival. It would be a slow death that takes generations. Your terms demand that we give up 60% of our territory, that we limit our technology, that we provide labor for your projects. Do you know what happens to species who accept those terms? Torvund said nothing. They become dependent. They forget how to fight. They forget how to dream. Within a few generations, they are nothing but servants with fancy titles. They live. Yes, they exist, but they are no longer truly themselves. She shook her head slowly. We crawled out of our gravity well alone. We crossed the darkness between stars without help. We built our civilization with our own hands, our own sweat, our own blood. Everything we have, we earned. And we decided, long before we met you, that we would never give it away, not for safety, not for profit, not for survival. Because survival without freedom is not life, it is merely existence. And existence without meaning is worse than death. Torvund leaned back in his chair. He felt very old suddenly, very tired. The council was not always like this, he said quietly. In the beginning, we truly wanted to unite the galaxy, to bring peace and prosperity to all species. We believed that structure and order were necessary for civilization to flourish. And now, he paused. Now I am not sure. Perhaps we have become what we once fought against. Perhaps we have confused control with wisdom, dominance with leadership. Hana Bin studied him carefully. You sound like a leader who has begun to doubt. I am very old, Ambassador. When you live long enough, you begin to see patterns. The same mistakes repeated across centuries. The same arrogance. The same blindness. He sighed. I have watched the council slowly transform from a community into an empire. I have watched us become the thing we once feared. Then why do you continue? Because I hoped that one day, something would change. Someone would remind us of what we were supposed to be. He looked at her with something like wonder. Perhaps that someone is you. Hana Bin allowed herself a small smile. We are not here to save you, High Speaker. We are here to stand beside you as equals. Nothing more, nothing less. Equals. Torvund tasted the word as if it were unfamiliar. It has been a very long time since the council had equals. Then perhaps it is time to remember what that felt like. They sat in silence for a long moment. Two beings from different worlds, different times, different experiences. But in that moment, something passed between them. Understanding, respect, perhaps even the beginning of trust. I cannot promise the council will accept your terms, Torvund said finally. Morath and his allies want war. They see any compromise as weakness. And what do you see? Torvund stood slowly. He walked to the window and looked out at the nebula. I see an old fool who spent 3,000 years thinking he understood the universe. And I see a young species that has taught him, in a single conversation, that he understood nothing at all. He turned back to face her. I will speak to the council. I will tell them what I have learned today. Whether they listen or not, that is beyond my control. Hanabin stood and offered her hand. It was a human gesture of respect. Torvund looked at it for a moment, then gently wrapped his clawed limb around her fingers. Thank you for your honesty, Ambassador. Thank you for listening, High Speaker. They released their grip and walked together toward the door. One more question, Torvund said before they parted. Yes? If the council agrees to recognize you as equals, what do you truly want? Hanabin smiled. Peace, trade, friendship, the same things every species wants. We are not monsters, High Speaker. We are just people who refuse to be treated as less than what we are. She walked away, leaving Torvund alone with his thoughts. And for the first time in centuries, the ancient leader felt something he had almost forgotten. Hope. The 10th rotation arrived like a storm cloud gathering on the horizon. Every delegate knew what was at stake. Every species watched from their homeworlds, waiting for news. The fate of the galaxy would be decided today. The Hall of 10,000 Voices was completely full. Not a single seat remained empty. Beings who had not attended council sessions in decades made the journey to the Grand Nexus Station. This was history. This was the moment when everything changed. High Speaker Torvund stood at the center platform. He looked older somehow, smaller, but his voice remained strong. The council is now in session. We are here to decide the matter of humanity's integration. Delegate Morath was the first to speak. He rose from his seat like a predator preparing to strike. The answer should be obvious, he declared. These humans have insulted us. They have threatened us. They have shown nothing but disrespect for the traditions that have governed this galaxy for 12,000 years. He pointed a clawed finger at the visitors' platform where Hanabin stood with her delegation. Look at them. A species that emerged from their world barely 1,000 years ago. A civilization that should be grateful for our attention. And yet they dare to refuse our generous offer. Murmurs of agreement rippled through parts of the assembly. I call for immediate military action. Let us teach these primitives the price of arrogance. Let us remind the galaxy that the Council's authority is absolute. Morath sat down, confident that he had swayed the majority. But before anyone else could speak, Arbiter Koss rose. The robotic consciousness rarely addressed the full council. His words carried weight. Before we proceed to a vote, I request permission to display updated tactical simulations. Torvund nodded. Holographic images filled the air above every delegate's seat. Numbers, percentages, projections. The mathematics of war laid bare for all to see. If we attack humanity with our full armada, we will win, Koss announced. However, victory will cost us approximately 65% of our combined fleet. Economic damage will require centuries to repair, and there is a 34% probability that the humans will activate their silence engine, resulting in complete mutual destruction. He paused to let the numbers sink in. I am a machine. I do not feel fear or anger or pride. I only calculate probabilities, and my calculations indicate that military action against humanity is statistically unwise. The murmurs in the assembly changed in tone. Many delegates who had supported Morath began to look uncertain. Emissary Li Wen spoke next. Her ethereal form drifted to the center of the chamber. I have touched the minds of the human delegation. I have seen their thoughts, their memories, their dreams. Her voice was soft but reached every corner of the hall. They are not our enemies. They are not barbarians seeking to destroy us. They are simply a people who refuse to be treated as inferior. She turned to face Morath directly. When the Keth joined the council, did you not demand to be treated with respect? Did you not refuse to accept terms that you considered unfair? How are the humans any different? Morath's eyes narrowed, but he had no answer. Finally, High Speaker Torvund stepped forward. The chamber fell silent. I have served the council for 3,000 years. I have watched species rise and fall. I have made decisions that shaped the fate of trillions, and I have learned one truth above all others. He paused. Power is not the same as wisdom. Strength is not the same as righteousness. The council exists to serve the galaxy, not to dominate it. He turned to look at the visitors' platform. Ambassador Hannah Bin, please step forward. Hannah Bin walked to the center of the chamber. She stood beside Torvund, facing the endless rows of alien faces. Her heart was beating fast, but her expression remained calm. Yesterday, I asked the ambassador a question. Torvund continued. I asked her why humanity refused to bargain. Her answer taught me something I had forgotten. He looked out at the assembly. She reminded me that there are things more valuable than survival, that dignity and freedom cannot be traded for safety, that a people who surrender their soul have already lost everything worth keeping. He took a deep breath. The humans will not bargain. They will not beg. They will not bend. And I believe that is precisely why they deserve our respect. Morath jumped to his feet. You cannot be serious. You would let these primitives dictate terms to us? No, Torvund replied calmly. I would let them stand beside us as equals. Not below us. Not above us. Equal partners in the future of this galaxy. He raised his arm, and a holographic document appeared above the chamber. I propose a new resolution. Humanity shall be recognized as a sovereign power with full diplomatic rights. They shall control their own territories without interference. They shall set their own terms of trade and alliance, and they shall be offered a seat on the Galactic Council as a full member species. Gasps echoed through the assembly. In 12,000 years, no species had been granted such terms so quickly. This is unprecedented, Morath protested. This violates every tradition we have. Then perhaps it is time to create new traditions. Torvund looked at Morath with something like pity. The universe changes, old friend. Those who cannot change with it are left behind. He called for a vote. The counting took nearly an hour. Delegates argued. Factions negotiated. Promises were made and broken. But when the final tally was complete, the result was clear. 63% in favor. Humanity would be recognized as equals. Morath stormed out of the chamber without a word. Several of his allies followed. But the majority remained, watching as history unfolded before their eyes. Hannah Bin turned to face the assembly. For a moment, she simply looked at them. All these ancient, powerful beings who had ruled the stars since before her species learned to write. Then she bowed. Not the bow of a servant. Not the bow of the defeated. It was the bow of respect between equals. The acknowledgement of those who had found common ground, despite their differences. Humanity accepts your offer of alliance, she said. Her voice was steady and strong. We look forward to building a future together, not as subjects, not as masters, but as partners. She straightened and smiled. Perhaps, in time, we will teach each other things we never knew we needed to learn. High above the Grand Nexus station, Admiral Taewu watched from the bridge of the horizon. Beside him, Captain Jae-Sok let out a breath he had been holding for what felt like years. We did it, Jae-Sok whispered. I cannot believe we actually did it. Taewu nodded slowly. We stood our ground. That was all we ever needed to do. In the weapons bay far below, Dr. Yuna Sol powered down the silence engine. Her hands were trembling. She had been prepared to activate it, prepared to end everything, but now, that terrible responsibility could be set aside. Weapons, secure, she reported. Standing down, back in the Hall of 10,000 Voices, delegates began approaching the human delegation. Some offered congratulations, some expressed curiosity, a few simply wanted to touch them, as if to confirm that such strange creatures were real. Hannah Bin handled each interaction with grace. She answered questions, she accepted greetings. She planted the first seeds of 1,000 future relationships. Later that evening, She stood alone at the observation deck. The nebula painted the sky in shades of purple and gold. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction. Captain J. Sok found her there. Ambassador. The Admiral wants to know when we will depart for Earth. Hanabin did not turn around. Tell him we will leave in the morning. But first, I want to remember this moment. J. Sok stepped up beside her. What moment? The moment everything changed. She finally looked at him. Her eyes were shining with unshed tears. We came here expecting to fight. We came here prepared to die. But instead, we found something better. Peace? Understanding. She smiled. They feared us because we were willing to lose everything. But now they respect us because we were willing to stand for something greater than ourselves. She looked back at the stars. This is just the beginning, J-Sok. The universe is vast. There are countless species out there we have not yet met. Countless challenges we have not yet faced. But today, we proved something important. What did we prove? That humanity does not kneel. That we do not bargain away our dignity. That we would rather burn than bow. She placed her hand on the cold glass of the window, and that sometimes, the courage to stand is enough to change the galaxy. In the distance, the human fleet turned toward home. Behind them, the Grand Nexus station glittered like a jewel against the darkness. They had come as strangers. They left as equals, and nothing in the universe would ever be the same again.